was one aspect of the original Kingdom Come that served as an almost insurmountable barrier to entry, it was combat. The linear prologue is already unrepresentative of the game, but the absurdly high skill floor of even the most basic enemy encounters was no doubt the reason many people bounced off the first game. So I was cautious leading up to Kingdom Come 2, as it appeared to be the rare type of game that revels in its inaccessibility, but I was delighted when I found out that Kingdom Come Deliverance 2's biggest improvements were made in its combat. Now, it's possible that the reason I found it more intuitive is because I only played the original a month prior to release, and the muscle memory was still ingrained in my reflexes. But there are also undeniable mechanical changes that gives the player more options and depth when engaging foes head-on. Firstly is the streamlining of directional attacks. The combat of Kingdom Come games revolves around reading your opponent's movements and blocking their attacks by matching their direction. Kingdom Come 2 reduces the number of possible directions from 5 to 4, as the lower directions are merged and now reserved for stabbing attacks, where the previous game had that as the center direction. This maintains the complexity of the original, whilst reducing the difficulty, as now it's far simpler to parry and riposte your opponent's strikes. Which leads me to the second massive improvement, combos. This system allows for the combat to have some meaningful depth and strategy. See, whilst Kingdom Come 1's combat was complex, that doesn't necessarily mean it was deep, often just requiring you to read your opponent's moves and block them whilst hitting the side their weapon wasn't on. But Kingdom Come 2's combo systems allow for a much more strategic approach and has a much higher success rate than mindlessly mashing multiple sword strikes, and also allowing you to follow up parry attacks with a riposte, creating a much better flow to the previously clunky swordplay. But Kingdom Come 2 also offers far more expansive combat by offering more weapon choices than just a sword. While Kingdom Come 1 had more weapon types as well, you would have been stupid to not use a sword on a casual playthrough, as if you thought the sword combat was finicky, the polearms were abysmal. In Deliverance 2, the polearms and all other weapon types feel much more fleshed out, making them viable alternatives to blades. Another weak point was ranged combat, which used to have an inexcusably long reload time due to the realism. But the addition of crossbows and early firearms mitigate the issue of an extensive reload time by packing serious weight behind each attack. Although the game claims to take place in a brutally realistic world, but there's definitely some kind of mystical element, because my bullets will still vanish into the ether even when I'm firing at point-blank range, and I'm sure this alternate dimension will be the setting for the eventual third game. A more meta example of an improvement to combat is its introduction into the story. The main centerpiece of Kingdom Come Deliverance 1's promo art is the sword that Henry has to reclaim for his father, but a new player would be forgiven for expecting this game to have a heavy focus on swordplay, so it may come as a shock to learn that you don't even get to swing a sword until at least 2 hours into the game, at which point you were probably in for a rude awakening. So by having us in the combat tutorial within 15 minutes is a massive achievement in the sequel's pacing, and extremely wise, as players who dropped off the first game due to the cumbersome combat are almost immediately presented with the vast mechanical improvements the sequel has made. Now, this video might have annoyed some people with how dismissive I've been of the original game's combat, as the popularity of said games and Souls-likes certainly show that sects of gamers are psychopaths. But whether you genuinely enjoy the first game's combat because you love the authenticity, or you're an elitist jackass who only likes it because casual players found it unintuitive, there can be no debate that facing multiple enemies in Kingdom Come Deliverance 1 was an exercise in absolute torture, as the AI had no regard for the player's sanity and would gang up on you to the point that a Sekiro pro couldn't block their attacks. And when I realized that even in the most chaotic of war zones, I was still managing to mitigate most of my damage, I shed a tear of joy knowing that Warhorse were able to compromise on their vision of absolute realism in order to make room for a functional combat system. The combat of Kingdom Come 2 did what I thought was impossible. It made the first game's combat work without abandoning it. In fact, it's so similar on the surface that I'm sure many of you didn't realise there had been meaningful changes until this video. It shows that Warhorse are some of the most elegant developers in the industry, who state their insane ideals of realism loud and proud, and then back it up. Although sometimes to the detriment of the game, I cannot believe we still had to deal with saviour schnapps. For more Kingdom Come Deliverance essays, here's one about how the game tries to prevent you from exploring it, and I'll be back in 2 days.